Hey, what's up, everyone? This is a quick introduction to my presentation for this conference. I want to thank everyone for putting this on. I was honored to be asked to be a presenter for the Freedom Under Natural Law 4 conference, Humanity Rising. My presentation is called How Do We Get From Where We Are to a World of Complete Freedom? And in the process of putting this together over the last few weeks, I came across a word. And when I dug into the etymology and the legal definition of that word using Black's Law Dictionary, I had a revelation and everything changed for me. And in the process, my presentation changed and ended up being over 2 hours. So because of the time restrictions for this conference, I can only present part 1 to you today, but there's a natural break between part 1 and part 2. So part 1 is called How Humanity Has Been Enslaved Under Positive Law, the True Nature of Our Cage. And then part 2, which will be available on the website and the restreaming, as well as all my websites and my video channels. Part 2 is called Why Humanity Will Only Find Freedom Under Natural Law, and the key to unlock the cage. So I hope you're enjoying this conference, learning a lot, and I really hope that what I have to present to you here will show you a whole new perspective on how the system keeps us so trapped through the deception of one single word. So enjoy, and I'll see you at the end of this. Hi, this is Jake Jackson, and this is my presentation for the Freedom Under Natural Law Conference number 4, Humanity Rising. Before I start, I wanted to thank the organizers of this conference, especially Leslie Powers and Derek Bartolocelli, who had me on their show Dissolving the Divide last year, to talk about a macro solution to the human condition. And that's the focus of my work, which is taking natural law and applying it to a solution which has never really been tried before in human history, as far as we can tell. But that's the whole purpose of my work. And the title of my presentation is How Do We Get From Where We Are to a World of Complete Freedom? And that's what this is all about, because where we are is not a place that anybody should want to be living in if you want to live in freedom, because nobody really in this world is free within the system that we live in. So we have to understand that natural law is our guide. So, again, thanks for putting this conference on, because this is the conversation that everyone needs to be having. Until people understand the omnipotent power of natural law, we're going to remain stuck. So that said, let's get started. Questions to be answered in this presentation. Number 1, what do I mean by where we are? What is this world we live in? This system. What do I mean by that? And again, why do we not want to be here any longer? Number 2, why is natural law the only guide we need to create a world of complete freedom? And I'm going to be talking about something I've never talked about before in any of my presentations or my podcast interviews. And I think that's really going to show people the real reason why we need to align with natural law more than anything else. And so I'm kind of excited about talking about that. How do we create a world aligned with natural law? What is the process to make this transition? If we all decide, hey, yeah, this is a better model, what do we need to do? And what all needs to be done to bring this vision to fruition? So there's a process, and then there's what needs to be done. They sound the same, but they're a little bit different. So let's start with number 1. What do I mean by where we are? And the best way, I think, to illustrate this is to show a graphic of the hierarchy under which we live, because that's going to show essentially the system in which we live. And this is what that looks like. We essentially have 4 levels of control in this system. At the bottom here, we've got world population control, which is also referred to as human resources. Then right above that, we've got world resource control, which is referred to as natural resources. Above that, we've got world financial control, which essentially runs the whole thing. And then above that, we have what they refer to as the superclass. So these are the 4 levels of control in the world today. So let's start at the very bottom with world population control, human resources. We, the 8 billion debt slaves, we the people down here at the bottom, are the energy source for the entire system. Okay? And there are 5 basic areas of control within this human resources area. We have the media, government, education, religion, and medical industrial complex and big pharma. What the media, government, and education system was initially meant to be, it was meant to be a firewall to protect we the people from those above them in the hierarchy who wanted to control us and who wanted to steal our wealth from us, essentially. So where once government, media, and we had an education system that actually taught us how to think and not what to believe. Now it's an indoctrination system. All 3 levels of this protective layer have been hijacked by the entities above it in the hierarchy. Okay? That's why we have the world in which we live. That's why we are where we are. Religion is part of the control structure, and obviously medical industrial complex, big pharma is a huge part of controlling the masses. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. Above them is the world resource control level of natural resources. And this is pretty much controlled by the corporations. And given the corporations' number one fiduciary duty of maximizing shareholder value, what they do is they extract those natural resources in the cheapest way possible. And they use the cheapest human resources possible to extract those natural resources. So not only do they find the cheapest labor, they do it in the cheapest way possible. And doing it in the cheapest way possible to maximize shareholder value destroys ecosystems and upsets the balance, the natural balance of our world, all for profit. So it's a system run by greed. And that creates a system of imbalance because, again, everything operates in violation of natural law. Above the corporations, they are beholden to world financial control. And this is really the root of the system itself, because the system runs on a financial monetary system based in debt. And what they do is they create money out of nothing, lend it into existence, and we use it. Everybody down here uses it at interest. And we all have to pay interest on this money they create out of nothing. Essentially, what they've done is they've perfected alchemy. Because long ago, we all know that the alchemists one of the things that they tried to do was to take a base metal like lead, and they tried to figure out how to turn it into gold so they could create something of value. And they've done one better, probably 100 times better. They just create the money out of nothing, out of thin air, lend it into existence and say, now you owe us interest on this. And this debt has been building and building and building over the years to the point where it's impossible to ever repay. And they're going to use that debt to ultimately take over, bring down the economic system, and bring in what you see here, CBDC, some type of digital currency that's going to control everything. And you're not going to have any freedom whatsoever to buy and sell unless you completely submit to their rules. All right? This is all run by the central banks. And so this is where we are. Okay? And above world financial control, we have what they refer to as the superclass. These are the think tanks and non-governmental organizations. George Soros' Open Society, the United Nations, Club of Rome, Bohemian Club, World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg Group, Council on Foreign Relations, the Rand Corporation, the Heritage Foundation, the Clinton Foundation, Trilateral Commission. These are all the groups where the superclass, they meet every year and they decide what they're going to do. This is how we're going to run the world. And everything flows down from there. And above them, we've got the Council of 13, the Committee of 300, and the world's richest families. So this is the hierarchy of the world in which we live. And we down here just essentially put up with it and try to live our lives without being abused too much. All right? And this is essentially a system of flow. Okay? And what flows down in the hierarchy is deception, control, and power. They use deception to control us and gain more power. And this is the way it works. That all flows down. Each level in the hierarchy below is beholden to the powers above. So if you do something that they don't like, then you will be eliminated from your position. Fired, knocked down a few rungs, whatever. Okay? So people play the game to maintain power and control. And what flows back up is compliance and currency in the form of our energy. So as long as we comply, they basically take our energy in the form of currency. And what we live in here is a feedback loop of power and control down, compliance, currency, energy up. And this just keeps on. This is the world we live in. This is where we are. And it's a perpetual cycle. And until we decide that we want to break this cycle, we're going to be stuck in this loop. And this is a system that we free thinkers in the world, those who are trying to wake up the rest of the world, we refer to the people who control this as they and them. Right? And people ask us all the time, well, who are they? Who are you talking about? Who are they? They roll their eyes at us. Well, they are the hierarchy enslaving you. All right? Again, this is a system. This is a hierarchy that's enslaving everybody at the bottom of the pyramid. And them are the hierarchy extorting mankind. So where we are is a system of enslavement and extortion. That's essentially the world that we live in. It's a system that's also called, and it was referred to by Bob Marley in a song by the same name from 1979, as the Babylon system. All right? It goes all the way back to ancient Babylon and a system, controlled by usury and a system of control. And what he said about this system is that it's a vampire sucking the children day by day. And what he means by that is it's a system of harvesting our energy. Just like a vampire sucks your blood, the system, the Babylon system, it sucks our energy from us. And it uses us to enrich itself to, again, buy up more power and control in the world. All right? And we're just down here toiling away, doing our jobs every day. And the wealth that we should be building for we the people and the good of the world is being stolen from us. They build the churches and the universities. They deceive us continually, right? We say them graduating thieves and murderers, right? This is the system. Every single institution in this hierarchy, what I refer to in my work as legacy institutions of enslavement, have been created by the hierarchy, right? And they pull people out of the 8 billion debt slaves. They bring them through their education system, or indoctrination system rather, and people eventually sell their souls to get into positions in all these different levels of the hierarchy, right? And as long as they're making a good living, this system perpetuates. Very few people are willing to stand up against the system. right? But are they graduating thieves and murderers? The medical industrial complex is responsible for, I think, the number 3 cause of unnatural death or premature death in the world, iatrogenic death. Big Pharma, the military industrial complex that creates all the wars. Are they graduating thieves and murderers? The entire financial system is based on theft, right? So I think he was right. The system creates the institutions. They bring the people up through the ranks, and then they put them into all these systems of control. They get into the media, they get into the government, they lead the religions, the corporations, the banks. And so this is the Babylon system. And Bob Marley knocked it out of the park with this song. His solution: tell the children the truth. Because we've been treading on your wine press much too long. Rebel, right? The truth will make us free. And the truth is understanding natural law. I like the allegory he used here, because treading on your wine press is about stealing the fruit of our labor. Wine is from a fruit. And they use this wine as a metaphor for the obscene wealth that they live off of. Because essentially they don't create anything of value for society. They create the institutions and they create the money out of nothing that runs the system. And then the system extracts the real value that we, the people, create at the bottom for themselves. And they buy up control. So we've been taken for granted much too long now. Rebel now. And that's the message. Rebellion does not mean violence. Rebellion can be simply peaceful non-compliance with the system. And that's what I'm going to show you in this presentation, is how we do that peacefully. My message is, always has been, and always will be, nonviolence. Because violence only begets more violence. And they want us to be violent so they can use the system to crack down on us. So whatever the solution is, it has to be 100% peaceful. Yeah, so that's the system. And that's the solution. But this system is also called something else. And this is via their revelation of the method. This is what was referred to as alchemical processing of society. They show us everything they're doing to us, and they explain. They have to show us what they're doing to us, because if we don't understand the message and we allow them to do it, all the karma shifts to us. So they showed us in probably the most powerful allegory in cinematic history exactly how the system works. So this is also called the Matrix. This is the world that we live in. This is where we are. And how do they describe the Matrix in the movie? It's the world that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. Okay? So everything in this hierarchy, like I said earlier, is about deception. They create a false reality that everybody down here on the bottom perceives as objective truth. Well, this is the way things are, right? This is the way things must be. This is the way we have to do things. But it's not. It's all a lie. And they create this world to blind us from the truth. And Neo asks, what truth? Right? And Morpheus responds that you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, into a prison that you cannot taste or see or touch. A prison for your mind. So, that's where we are. We're in a prison. The Babylon system, the Matrix. And by saying born into bondage, it's what your parents did the day you're born. 99.9% of parents do this. They sign a birth certificate, converting you from a natural man or woman into a corporate entity. And through that birth certificate, this system extracts a huge portion of your wealth, of everybody's wealth, your entire life. And over the generations and centuries that this system has been in effect, they have stolen trillions and trillions of dollars of real wealth from we the people. And they've created a world that, looks much like Sodom and Gomorrah, ancient Babylon, a world of sin. And that's why things are the way they are in the world today. That's why there's so much misery and so much chaos in the world, is because we're living in this system that people just can't see. And this system is controlled by what they refer to themselves as the superclass, the very top of the pyramid, the hierarchy. And the superclass was, I guess, coined by David Rothkopf in his book from 2009. And the subtitle of this book was The Global Power Elite in the World They Are Making. Right? They, the hierarchy enslaving you. And what he foresaw or foretold in this book is, 15, 16 years further along now. And we're just allowing it to happen. And the world they are making is a world of complete control over our lives. But the thing about this superclass that he admitted boldly in this book is that the superclass is comprised of approximately 6,000 people. So we are 8 billion down here. They are 6,000. 6,000 people essentially control the entire world. They're the people up in this upper level of the hierarchy, right? They create the deception, they create the mechanisms, they create the institutions that steal our wealth so that they can live these lives of obscene wealth. And so that's where we are. Essentially where we are is living in a system built on debt slavery, illegitimate authority, universal deceit, theft, gluttony, oppression, coercion, greed. I could go on, but I think you get the point here. And this is also a system where vice is considered virtue, and virtue is mocked and ridiculed, right? Have we seen that? The system is an inversion of objective reality. It's an inversion of natural law. The whole system is a violation of natural law, okay? Because their God, their eye of providence at the top, is not the creator, the true creator. It's Lucifer. That is their God, right? And everything about the Luciferian religion is about inversion. So where we are is a prison for your mind, right? And the only way to get to a world of complete freedom, the most important thing is we need to change our minds. We need a critical mass of people to change their mind. Because whatever this is, whatever it is where we are, one thing I know for sure, this is not freedom. All right? What they give you with their rhetoric of democracy is an illusion, right? They keep telling you that, democracy is under attack and we must save democracy. That's all part of the deception. That's all part of the illusion. Because democracy is a system of mob rule. 51% get to tell the other 49% how they're going to live. It's a world of people imposing their will on other people. And that's not freedom. Okay? So the entire system is built on lies. It's built on deception, right? Universal deceit. Illegitimate authority. It creates a system of illegitimate authority. Okay? And there's one more thing that Morpheus told Neo in the movie. And that's, as long as the Matrix exists, humanity will never be free. Okay? So if we want to create a world of complete freedom, something's going to have to go. And that something is the Matrix. That something is the Babylon system. That something is this hierarchy. And that's what this presentation is all about. It's how we do that. Okay? How do we unite 8 billion people to say, we're done. We're walking away. We're tired of this. We're not going where you want to take us. We know exactly where you want to take us. And we're not going. we're going to create a world fully aligned with natural law, and we're going to be completely free. Okay? So, that's where we are. Moving on. Why is natural law the only guide we need to create a world of complete freedom? All right. I did a video about this a couple of years ago for my foundational video series for my YouTube channel, Kaizen and the Pursuit of Truth. What I call my Reclaiming the Mind video series as well. But part 2 of it was understanding natural law and why it is the key to freeing humanity. All right, and I talked all about natural law. I took people through the history of natural law and why, if we align with natural law, we can peacefully dissolve the system. But the one thing that I didn't talk about in that video, which I'm excited to talk about today, is the difference between natural law and the law that we all follow in the Matrix. So first what we need to do is define what natural law is as opposed to positive law or man's law. Because this is really the key to understanding why natural law is the solution. All right? So let's start with defining our terms. And we just need to go back to Black's Law Dictionary, because if you want to get a real legal definition, that's the best place to go. So we have the second edition from 1910 here. And we'll start with the word positive, because positive, that's part of the deception that the hierarchy in the Matrix uses to get the people to think it's one thing other than what it really is. Right? It's misdirection. It's the deception. Most people, they hear positive and they think, oh, well, it's opposite of negative, right? It's something good. So they hear positive law, they say, well, that's good law, right? Here's what positive really means. It means laid down, enacted, or prescribed, express or affirmative, direct, absolute, explicit. Now, do those words make you feel like a sense of freedom or free will? Or do they make you feel like something is being imposed on you? Like someone has power over you, right? So add that to positive law. It's law actually and specifically enacted or adopted by proper authority for the government of an organized jural society. Okay, so there you have it. It's something laid down, enacted, prescribed, adopted by proper authority. Now that's the key here, proper authority. What you're going to see moving forward is that what they call proper authority under natural law is actually illegitimate authority. Okay, and we're going to get to that. A law in the sense in which that term is employed in jurisprudence is enforced, that word enforce, by a sovereign political authority, right? Now they're claiming that only political authorities are sovereigns. And I'm arguing that sovereignty belongs to the individual. All power belongs to the individual. And again, we'll get to that as well. And this is where they, if you read it, to me it sounds like they're mocking natural law, right? It is thus distinguished not only from all rules, which, like the principles of morality and the so-called laws of honor and of fashion, and by fashion they mean to create, to fashion, to make, are enforced by an indeterminate authority, i.e. God or a creator. So that's what they're talking about, fashion right there. So they say so-called laws of a creator. But also from all rules enforced by a determinate authority, which is either on one hand superhuman or on the other hand politically subordinate, right? So they're saying that this other, we're distinguishing positive law from this other type of law, which doesn't really have an enforcer. And if it does have an enforcer, it's going to be subordinate to political authority, right? So they're putting themselves above God in their legalese. And this is the deception of positive law. In order to emphasize the fact that laws, in the strict sense of the term, are thus authoritatively imposed, right? There it is again. The imposition of will on you. They're described as positive laws. Okay, so right there, we just went from positive being something that most people perceive to be good to something that is imposed on you. So let's go a little bit further into where they get the term positive from. What is the etymology of the word? Posit derives from Latin meaning to place or to put. Okay? So positive law, they're laws that just put into place by men who claim authority, right? They claim political authority over you, sovereign political authority, and many political authorities say they're ordained by God, i.e. monarchies. And, in some certain countries, communist countries like North Korea, they say that their political authority is ordained by God. They just put these laws into place. That's where the word comes from. In English, posit means to state or assume something as true or existing, often without proof. So we don't need proof that this is good for you. It's just do as we say or else, right? That's what positive law means. It's just randomly made up by men who want to control you. In formal writing or academic discourse, it is used in the following context. In philosophy, to introduce assumption. We're just assuming this is right. In science, to propose a theory. In math, to state a postulate or axiom, and in logic, to make a premise. So positive law is just law made up by people who claim control and power over you. That's all it is. There's nothing good about positive law, right? So that's really the crux of the issue here when we compare it to natural law and creating a world of freedom. Because as this conference is titled, freedom can only come under natural law. Because under man's law or positive law, we cannot have freedom. Because it is law that is imposed on us by illegitimate authority. By the very definition that we've just laid out here. Okay? So, moving on. Let's look at a definition of natural law. And this is from 1889 from a dictionary of law. The rule of human action prescribed by the Creator and discoverable by the light of reason. Simple definition, right? These are the laws handed down by the Creator of humanity, mankind, the world, whatever you want to call it. Whatever your perception of whatever the Creator is, and there are, millions of different perceptions of what, who, I wrote a blog about it a couple of years ago. Nobody knows, right? Nobody in this realm of reality can say definitively who or what the Creator is, right? There are a lot of people that will tell you definitively that they know, but it's just a belief, right? But using logic, we can assume that there is a Creator because we have free will and we have a desire to be free, right? If someone tries to put us in a cage, we're going to want to escape. Free will is something that was given to us inherently because that's what we all understand, right? If we go to Black's Law Dictionary, they define natural law as a rule of conduct arising out of the natural relations of human beings, established by the Creator and existing prior to any positive precept. So they define positive law as superior to natural law in that other definition we looked at. But if it's prior to any positive precept, is it not superior? I would think so. But they're saying, hey, the positive precept, this is what we need. If we don't have these positive laws, then there's going to be chaos throughout the world, and we need to enforce these laws on people. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to handle yourselves, right? The foundation of this law is placed by the best writers in the will of God, discovered by right reason, and aided by divine revelation. And its principles, when applicable, apply with equal obligation to individuals and to nations. This is true, right? Natural law applies equally to everybody. And if you violate it, you're going to suffer the consequences of that violation. If you align with it, you're going to reap the benefits. Simple as that. This is how the world really works. And then we get this thing called positive law that comes in and messes everything up, right? And it gives power to people that don't really have power. Their power is just an illusion. It's just a belief. They continue in Black's Law Dictionary. Natural law was intended to denote a system of rules and principles for the guidance of human conduct, which, independently of enacted law or the systems peculiar to any one people, might be discovered by the rational intelligence of man. True, right? This is intended to denote a system of rules and principles for the guidance of human conduct, right? Independently of enacted law. So we don't need laws enacted because we all understand natural law. And I'm going to get to why we understand it coming up. A natural law is defined by Burlamaqui to be a rule which so necessarily agrees with the nature and state of man that without observing its maxims, the peace and happiness of society can never be preserved. So, as soon as we violate natural law, if we don't observe its maxims, we can't have peace and happiness, right? So they're claiming, well, now we need to invoke positive law to enforce peace and happiness when all we need is natural law, right? And he says that these are called natural laws because a knowledge of them may be attained merely by the light of reason, right? The light of reason comes from our free will, from the intelligence and the intellect that our Creator gave us to figure it out. And from the fact that their essential agreeableness with the constitution of human nature, right? So, in our hearts, all human beings, unless you're one of the 4% who's a sociopath or psychopath, the 96% of human beings understand the difference between wrong and right, right? So, observing its maxims. So what are its maxims? There's essentially 4 moral maxims of natural law. So let's look at those. And these are from the Constitution that I've proposed for a natural law republic. Number 1, the Golden Rule. Do no harm and treat everyone as you would expect to be treated yourself. The wrongful imposition of will against one's informed and willful consent is a primary violation of natural law and human interactions. So there you go, the Golden Rule, number 1. First moral maxim. Number 2, don't steal. Every violation of natural law is one form of theft or another. You know, you're either stealing from yourself or you're stealing from someone else when you violate natural law. Vices are violations of natural law that only harm yourself. And in a natural law republic, they're not crimes, right? They're lessons to be learned, right? Honor your contracts and word. Do all you've promised to do to the very best of your ability and obligations. And I've added that because in a system of complete freedom, the best way to ensure that everybody remains honest is everybody has a contract. Everybody signs the Constitution agreeing that this is the supreme law of the land because this Constitution is based in natural law. And this Constitution actually does guarantee and protect my rights and my sovereignty as an autonomous individual, right? And then always respect the balance of nature. We live in a world where there is a symbiotic and synergistic balance in everything. And upsetting that balance has repercussions in other areas of nature which can have negative and unintended consequences when not handled carefully and with respect to the overall balance, right? So that's it. That's all we need to understand to have a truly civil society. And once people understand it, the thing is, most people operate this way already, unless they're operating on all of these ideas and perceptions that have been programmed into their mind their entire life by the Matrix, by the Babylon system. And that's what corrupts people, right? But if we just go back to natural law and everybody understood this, we can do away with government, we can do away with positive law, and we can just live in harmony with the natural balance, okay? So now we're going to cover a brief history of natural law philosophy. So we understand positive law is just made up. And now we're going to cover why natural law is the only thing we need, is the key to a world of complete freedom. So we're going to go back all the way to the beginning. And Aristotle was really the first one who started talking about this. Because if you go back to his teacher Plato and then Plato's teacher Socrates, Socrates was actually a proponent of positive law. if you look at his trial and his acceptance of his penalty of death for corrupting the youth, for essentially doing what I'm doing right now, right? I'm teaching the children, the world, whatever, how to think critically, how to be free. That's what all my work is about. And he was charged with corrupting the youth and sentenced to death by, a majority of, I believe, 30 people. I think I was 200, no, maybe it was 260, 10 to 30 people, I don't remember. But anyway, Plato's kind of on the fence because he didn't want Socrates to die. He was his teacher. He had a lot of respect for him. He didn't write much about it. But then we've got Aristotle here, who was really the first person, before Cicero, as we'll see coming up. But he said, he who asks law, and I added the natural in there because that's what he's referring to. He who asks natural law to rule is asking God and intelligence and no others to rule. While he who asks for the rule of a human being is importing a wild beast too. For desire is like a wild beast, and anger perverts rulers and the very best of men. Natural law is intelligence without appetite, because he understood that all men can be corrupted. And if you give them power, they're going to let it go to their head. That most men will do that when given power. So, by understanding that natural law, God's law, is intelligence without appetite. Right? It is what it is. And everyone knows that. Marcus Tullius Cicero was the first to really articulate a definition of what this idea of a creator's law is. Right? And he said, true law is right reason in agreement with nature. It is of universal application, unchanging and everlasting. It summons to duty by its commands and averts from wrongdoing by its prohibitions. Right? So, just by understanding, we know the difference between right and wrong. It is a sin to try and alter this law, nor is it allowable to attempt to repeal a part of it, and it is impossible to abolish it entirely. Right? Because natural law is just inherent in creation. It's there. And as you'll see, moving forward, it's written on our hearts. Everybody understands this. We cannot be freed from its obligations by Senate or people, and we need not look outside ourselves for an expounder or an interpreter of it. And there will not be different laws at Rome and at Athens, or different laws now and in the future, but one eternal and unchangeable law will be valid for all nations and for all times. And there will be one master and one rule. That is God, over us all. For he is the author of this law, its promulgator, and its enforcing judge. Right? So, natural law is the only power. And any government, senator, whatever, people that come in and try and pervert it and say, oh, no, we have the power. We're the ones who are going to tell you what you need to do. It's a sin, is what he says. Right? So he's calling anyone who tries to pervert natural law for their own personal gain is a sinner. And that's where we are. That's the world we live in. The world of sin. Because we've strayed from natural law. St. Augustine of Hippo expounded on St. Paul's notion that natural law is written on the hearts of man by our Creator. Right? Again, we all know. It was his belief that man once lived freely under natural law before the fall. Right? And have subsequently been doomed, now this is very interesting, to live in bondage under sin and positive law ever since. So St. Augustine equated positive law to bondage. That's the world we live in. That's where we are. We're in a world of positive law. So if we ever want to get back to a world where men once lived freely, we have to align with natural law. Because again, that's the only way to freedom is aligning with natural law. He spoke about his understanding of this in his 25th sermon on Psalm 118. No one injures another without at the same time hoping the same will not be done to himself. Right? There's that golden rule. And in this respect, he transgresses the law of nature. The very fact that he does not want to suffer the fate he inflicts on someone else means that he cannot plead ignorance of the natural law, right? If you harm someone that you don't want them to do to you, you already know it's wrong. You already know what natural law. They could have no more been without the natural law than they could have been alien to the human condition itself, right? So he understood. They understood the natural law is just inherent in all of us. Just like free will, just like the desire to be free, right? It's built into us, right? No one wants to be a slave to anybody else. And that's all part of natural law as well. St. Thomas Aquinas said an unjust law is a human law, positive law, that is not rooted in eternal law and natural law. Natural law is the same for all men. There is a single standard of truth and right for everyone, which is known by everyone, right? Again, so it continues. We see throughout history that the true philosophers, they understood this, and this is what they taught, that natural law is all we need. And human laws are the only unjust laws, right? There is no such thing as an unjust natural law. The only unjust law is human laws. And we are living in a world with millions of unjust human laws, which is why the matrix persists and perpetuates, and why, if we ever want to be free, that system needs to be dissolved. And positive law has to go with it. Okay? John Locke. The state of nature has a law of nature to govern it, which obliges everyone, and reason, which is that law, teaches all mankind who will but consult it. That being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions. There you go, the golden rule, once again. To understand political power right and derive it from its original, we must consider what state all men are naturally in, and that is a state of perfect freedom to order their actions and dispose of their possessions and persons as they think fit, within the bounds of the law of nature. Again, we have to do everything under natural law, or we're going to pay a consequence, without asking leave or depending on the will of any other man. So, again, if anyone tries to impose on us what we can and can't do with our person, with our property, all right, look what government says you farmers can do with your land. You know, you can't build there. You don't really own your land because you have to pay taxes. And if you don't pay taxes, we're going to take it from you. This is all sin. All positive law is sin, right? Natural law is all we need. William Blackstone. Law, in its most general and comprehensive sense, signifies a rule of action and is applied indiscriminately to all kinds of action, whether animate or inanimate, rational or irrational. So, no matter what we do, the law is going to apply. If you do the right thing, right action results in positive benefits. Wrong action results in negative consequences, right? Thus we say the laws of motion, of density, buoyancy, and electromagnetics, of optics or mechanics, as well as the laws of nature and of nations. And it is that rule of action which is prescribed by some superior, in which the inferior is bound to obey. So the superior is the creator, not government, and we're all bound to obey this law. That man should pursue his own true and substantial happiness. This is the foundation of what we call ethics, or natural law. This law of nature, being coeval with mankind and dictated by God himself, is of course superior in obligation to any other. So any law that violates natural law is repugnant to our Creator. And that's most of man's law. It is binding over all the world in all countries and at all times. No human laws are of any validity if contrary to this. Boom, right there. How many human laws are contrary to natural law? What, probably 97, 98% of them violate natural law. And again, so the lifeblood of the matrix of the system, the Babylon system, is debt and positive law. Because if you think about it, what is debt? What does it say on your dollar bills? It says legal tender, right? They give it value, but they debauch that value and they rob the true value of what you create with this money created under positive law. So the whole system violates natural law, every last bit of it. So if we want freedom, we have to align with natural law. Samuel Adams, founding father of the American Republic. Among the natural rights of the colonists are these. First, a right to life. Secondly, to liberty. Thirdly, to property. Now, what most people don't know is the Declaration of Independence originally was written to say that we invoke government, or we institute government to protect our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? But it originally said life, liberty, and property. And they changed it at the last minute to happiness, the pursuit of happiness. Together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner they can, right? We have a right to defend ourselves from anybody trying to take our life, our liberty, or our property. These are evident branches of, rather than deductions from, the duty of self-preservation, commonly called the first law of nature, right? He's invoking natural law here. We all have the right to life, liberty, and property. And we have the right to defend that if someone tries to take it from us. All men have a right to remain in a state of nature as long as they please. And in case of intolerable oppression, civil or religious, to leave the society they belong to and enter into another, which is exactly what I'm proposing with my macro solution. The natural liberty of man is to be free from any superior power on earth, and not to be under the will or legislative authority of man, but only to have the law of nature for his rule. So he was an advocate of natural law, and the government, the Articles of Confederation, the government that set up, essentially allowed them to live this way. And it was 11 years later when they instituted the Constitution where everything started to go wrong, right? Because that's when they invoked positive law. Lysander Spooner, one of the most ardent voices against the Constitution in American history, and why we're never taught about him in school. I didn't even know his name until well after I turned 40 years old. But he wrote, a man's natural rights are his own, against the whole world, and any infringement of them is equally a crime, whether committed by one man or by millions. Whether committed by one man, calling himself a robber, or by any other name indicating his true character, or by millions, calling themselves a government. The very idea of law originates in men's natural rights. There is no other standard than natural rights, by which civil law can be measured. Law has always been the name of that rule or principle of justice, which protects those rights. Thus, we speak of natural law, right? So he found government law repugnant as well. And if you haven't listened to or read No Treason, The Constitution of No Authority, I highly recommend it. You can find it for free on the web. And you can find it on YouTube. And finally, let's come full circle, round this out with a contemporary view of natural law from Stephen Covey. I believe that correct principles are natural laws, and that God, the creator and father of us all, is the source of them, and also the source of our conscience. I believe that to the degree people live by this inspired conscience, they will grow to fulfill their natures. To the degree that they do not, they will not rise above the animal plane. If you want to achieve your highest aspirations and overcome your greatest challenges, identify and apply the principle or natural law that governs the results you seek. While we are free to choose our actions, we are not free to choose the consequences of those actions. Consequences are governed by natural law. All right? So there you have it. 2,500 years of people understanding and teaching that natural law is what guides us. It's the only thing we need to guide us. And it's what allows us to achieve our full potential in life. And operating under a system of positive law, which is oppression, hinders the individual from achieving their full potential, right? Because so much is stolen from you under the pretext of positive law. Income tax is a positive law, right? It's written in the Constitution. It's an amendment to the Constitution. Is it good? Or is it a violation of natural law? It's theft. Violates number 2, the second moral maxim. So, the difference between natural law and positive law. Natural law is based on principles and truth, inherent to creation. Man's law is based on dogmatic beliefs, constructs of the mind. Again, remember, positive means to just create. This is the law because we want it to be. Natural law is harmonized with due to knowledge and understanding, right? Human intellect. Man's law is complied with due to fear of punishment. It's something imposed on you. Natural law is universal, exists and applies anywhere in the universe regardless of location. Man's law differs with location based on the whim of legislatures. Moral relativism, right? Different countries have different laws that all are repugnant to natural law. So, no matter where you live, you're still living under some form of positive law, which is dogmatic belief, right? Just created to control you. Natural law is eternal and immutable, exists and applies for as long as the universe exists, and cannot be changed. Man's law changes with time based on the whim of legislators, right? So there's a difference between natural law and positive law. One is inherent with creation, the other is made up, right? Man's law is designed to control you and to, as we showed in the Matrix, in the Babylon system, extort your wealth, harvest your wealth, harvest your energy, right? I want to really focus in on this part right here for a second. Harmonized with due to knowledge and understanding, right? So how do we come to knowledge and understanding of natural law? And I'm not a religious person in any sense of the word. I don't follow any religion. I don't adhere to any dogmatic religious beliefs. But I do look at the Bible as a source of great wisdom and knowledge. And in the Bible, there are 5 scriptures that teach natural law and how we harmonize with the understanding of natural law. And I'm going to cover those here. Number 1, Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. Thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of God, I will also forget thy children. So what it's saying here is, because you violate natural law, you're destroyed. And you're destroyed in many different ways. It could be in, violating the laws of nature and what you eat, your diet. People get sick because they put the wrong things into their bodies, right? Natural law applies to everything we do. Every action that a human being takes has an implication in natural law, right? So when you reject natural law, when you reject the knowledge of natural law, you're rejected by the Creator. Simple as that. That's natural law. So, we're destroyed by lack of knowledge. How do we acquire that knowledge? Well, that's Matthew 7 and 8. Ask and it shall be given, right? Seek and ye shall find, knock it shall be opened to you. If you want knowledge of truth, you have to go find it. It's not going to be given to you in the system. The Babylon system is not going to educate you in the way that you need to be educated to understand natural law. Because the system indoctrinates you. It doesn't teach you how to think, it teaches you what to believe. And what to believe is not what you need to understand. Right? So everyone that ask, receive. Everyone that seek, find. And everyone that knock, it shall be opened. All right? That's the key. And once you seek and you find it, and you know the truth, you'll be made free. Right? So the whole operative word of John 8:3-2 here is no. Right? There's a lot of people out there who think they know the truth. but they've been deceived, right? And so they're not free. They're not truly free. They're living under the illusion of freedom. And that's most people in this world. Because until you understand and know the truth, and the truth is natural law. Natural law is all truth. Natural law is all objective truth in existence, right? Natural law is God, is natural law, right? What do they say about God, about the Creator? Omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. So is natural law. It's always there, right? So God is natural law. And once we understand the knowledge, once we acquire the knowledge, we're made free, right? And I'm, in this system, I'm living a life about as free as you can get. But I want to bring the whole entire system down so that I can experience complete freedom and everybody else can experience complete freedom. Because no one should want to be enslaved to this system. Moving on from John 8:3-2, we get to Romans 12:2. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Again, more talk of the mind. That ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Right? Don't conform to this world. Don't conform to the matrix and the Babylon system. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And the renewing of your mind requires seeking the knowledge of truth. Right? And once you understand that, you'll prove to yourself that the perfect will of God is aligning with natural law. Right? I mean, this is powerful stuff. This is exactly what it's all about. And when we stray from this, we suffer the consequences. As we can see in Galatians 6:5-7. For every man shall bear his own burden. Let him that is taught in the word meaning natural law, the truth, communicate unto him that teacheth in all good things. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, he shall also reap. Again, if you violate natural law, you're going to suffer the consequences. If you sow goodness in the world, if you align with natural law, you're going to reap the benefits. You're going to reap the rewards, right? So there you go. 5 of the most powerful scriptures in the Bible that teach natural law. And they're all in chronological order in the Bible, just this way, right? So this is the path. You have to understand that you're destroyed for your lack of knowledge. This is how to do it, all right? We're going to show you in the Bible. So that's my perception of the Bible. I look at it as a book of wisdom and something that teaches how to live a good life in alignment with what the Creator intended. All right? So to finish this up, the difference between natural law and positive law. Under natural law, or living in harmony with natural law, leads to freedom. It leads to peace. It leads to prosperity. And it not only leads to survival, but it leads to thriving in our world. Right? Not just surviving. Once you harmonize and align with natural law, you actually thrive. And everybody thrives. Leads to evolutionary progress and abundance. Because the world was created to generate abundance of everything. Right? And as long as we align with natural law, there's abundance for everybody. But under positive law or man's law, living in opposition to natural law, that leads to control. It leads to enslavement. It leads to war, evolutionary stagnation, extinction, and scarcity. And if you really look at the model that we're living in, they use scarcity as a tactic of fear and control, right? We're running out of this. With the oil, Hubbard's peak, we're at peak oil and we're going to run out by the 70s, right? They use scarcity to scare us into everything, into compliance. But we live in a world of abundance, and there's enough for everybody to go around. And once we align with natural law, we will be living in freedom, peace, prosperity, and thriving. All right? So, in conclusion, we can confidently assert that positive law is negative or detrimental to individual freedom. Right? The system operates on positive law. Well, if we want to be free, we can't have positive law. Right? We can't have men making stuff up. Positive law is the enemy of individual sovereignty. Sovereignty, in my mind, belongs with the individual. Period. You don't get a bunch of individuals to create an entity and say that entity is sovereign over us, because the only thing that's sovereign over us is the Creator, right? But in this world, we're all our own kings. And under natural law, we're all the rulers of our own lives. So individual sovereignty is the goal in creating a world of complete freedom. Positive law is the foundation of statism, illegitimate authority, and the seed of all tyranny and oppression. Right? We just showed you with the definitions and everything. Natural law is the only law that enables the individual man and woman and the communities and societies they create to experience complete freedom. All right, so there you go. We've just covered the difference between positive law and natural law, come to the conclusion that if we want to create a world of complete freedom, we must align fully with natural law. Okay, so that wraps up part one of my presentation. How do we get from where we are to a world of complete freedom? Hopefully by now you understand that where we are is a world of deception, completely made up by a small group of people who want to control the mass. Okay? Just like they make up debt and create the money out of nothing to control us and extract our wealth, they also make up the laws that control us. And as long as we believe that this is reality, it will remain our reality. Okay? So in part two, I'm going to give you the key to unlock the cage. And this is a culmination of 18 years of my life. This is what I've been working on since literally 2 weeks after my 40th birthday, back in 2007. And I saw Aaron Russo's America, Freedom to Fascism. I was shocked what I learned, because I did have a background in finance with a degree in finance from Illinois State University in 1993. And when I saw that, everything just clicked and I realized, oh my God, everything's a lie. And so I have dedicated my life to fixing this problem that has enslaved humanity. And hopefully you will see that what I've created over the last 18 years is what I call a macro solution to the human condition. Because everything that I've created is designed to align humanity with natural law and do away with this idea of illegitimate authority and universal deceit. Okay, as I talked about in part one. So, enjoy part two. It unfortunately won't be airing here during the conference. It will be in the replay section of the Freedom Under Natural Law website. I believe Chris Jansen is going to be playing it on his podcast, End Evil, this Thursday. And it will be available on my YouTube channel, my websites, all of my video channels. So you'll be able to find it. But again, it's equally as important to understanding part one and why we're enslaved. And this is how we free ourselves. Because I think what I put together is by far the most logical, sensible, peaceful, and easiest way to get humanity to a world of complete freedom. So, I hope you check it out, and I will see you all in the roundtable after the conference is completed. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.